Well, here we go, Glenn. How you doing, man?
I'm doing okay.
Welcome again to another version of the Komprise TechKrunch. A short 10-minute cup of coffee, talk about technical topics, things like that. I'm Randy Hopkins from Komprise, and here's my cohort, Glenn Spear. Hello, Glenn.
Hey.
Yep. So let's get started. After the last session, a couple people came up to us and said, hey, can we learn more about your integration with Microsoft Azure? And can you show us a few things like how can Komprise help with building that cloud strategy, migrate data from Windows or Unix over to Windows and Unix at Microsoft Azure Files? How can you leverage Komprise for tiering cold data into Azure Blob and things like that? So we thought that's a great topic. So that's what our topic is going to be today. So if you look at the bottom right-hand side of your screen, folks, there should be a little icon to adjust your resolution, so that it might help you with any resolution issues you might have. So I want to bring that up. And we are watching the chat, so please ask questions if you have any questions. So Glenn, why don't you give us a little field trip here?
All right. Thanks, Randy. All right. So like Randy mentioned, focus today is on Azure, Azure storage services like Azure Files and Azure Blob. So, so like Randy mentioned, we have customers, we have people come up to us after the last session and say, hey, how can I leverage Azure with Komprise for different uses? And so the focus today is around that. Quick primer on Azure storage services. There's a couple of different flavors. There's Azure Files, which is basically NAS in the cloud by Microsoft. So you can present data there via SMB or NFS. You obviously see a lot more SMB with the Microsoft flavor here, but it's just NAS in the cloud. Then you have Azure Blob. That's Microsoft's flavor of object storage. So that's built and optimized for storing massive amounts of unstructured data. We can leverage both of these. I'm going to focus today on how to migrate data to Azure Files from on-prem legacy NAS and how to tier data to Azure Blob transparently. So let me jump right into that. Let's get this party started.
There you go.
All right, I'm going to share my screen here.
Yeah, good.
Okay, so first of all, focus on Azure Files. Getting data from on-prem to Azure Files, it can be quite a task. Komprise can help you here and make it very easy. So first thing you do is set up Azure Files as a source. We have it as part of our dropdown. You see many different sources here, but here we're going to focus on Azure Files. The information you put in here is real simple. Your storage account name, your access key. That'll discover all of the shares you have within that storage account, or you can specify a particular share, either SMB or NFS. You put your information in, and we'll find it. Now, if you need to migrate data, you just hop over to the Migration tab and set up your migration job. This is super easy as well. Here we have Isilon source. So we choose our source system, choose our Isilon source. You can choose either the entire share or directory within it. Then your destination. Here, Azure Files. Migration target. Again, I can migrate data, replicate the data into the entire share root or into a directory within it. You choose your migration name. That's on Azure File Services. Choose some settings. Check everything out, make sure it's configured properly, and start your migration. This migration job will run an initial iteration, try to copy everything it can. If it misses something because it was open or something to that effect, it'll run another iteration and try and catch those files. You run as many iterations as you need to get your data from your on-prem to Azure File Services, and then you do your cutover. So super simple. You don't have to babysit this. You just let it run in the background, get your data copied over, and it's very fast and efficient.
Well, let me add one more thing to that, Glenn. Could we
Yes.
just do the migration and use this as a second copy, just if we want another copy offsite from
Yeah.
our yeah.
Yeah. Good point, Randy. Yeah. The migration capability can also be used to replicate data and keep a secondary copy of the data in the cloud. That data you can read and write to and do everything you need to do on that cloud copy. Same as if it was same as if it was on-prem.
Yeah, yeah. So if you don't do the cutover, what we'll do is we'll just keep running and keeping the two copies relatively in sync, because we'll come and find any new changes and move that over to Azure Files. And so think about it as almost like a asynchronous replication that continues to keep things in sync.
Good point, Randy. All right, so that's the migration capability of Komprise. It makes it really easy to move data out to Azure Files. Now I'm going to cover a bit about Azure Blob, tiering data from your on-prem NAS, identifying cold data and moving that cold data to Azure Blob, but still keeping the data accessible and readable within the cloud provider. Pretty neat. So I'm going to hop over here. So this is our plan tab. If you've seen Komprise before, looks very familiar. Going to hop over to where we're going to set up our target. So first thing you do if you're going to move data to Azure Blob is you set up Azure Blob as a target. So you come in here. I've already set this one up. I'm just going to go in and edit the configuration to show what you need here. So you have your storage account information, your primary access key information, which access tier you want to send data to. You have a choice. You can send it to hot, cool, or archive tier directly. Put your display name in, what you want it to show up as in Komprise. And then finally, here at the bottom, you choose your data format. Data format, so if you've worked with Komprise in the past, let's say a year ago or before that, really all we had at that time was chunked format. Well, we broke data up into 5 meg chunks, send it out to the cloud provider. When we go to read it, we pull the chunks back. Komprise actually pulls the chunks back together and builds the file again and gives it back to the end user. But we've started doing this native mode with more of our targets. And so we have it now. Now that we have it with Azure, we have it with all of our cloud provider targets, all of our on-prem targets. So, and a lot of our customers use this. The benefit of native mode is you can read the data without even using Komprise. You can go directly to the data location, read the data with native tools, and I'll show you an example of that in a minute here. But you still do have the option of chunk format if you like. If you do chunk format, we can do the encryption, but honestly, we recommend you use the encryption provided with the cloud provider itself. They're very good at it, and you might as well use it if they have it. So we set up our target. You go back over to our plan. Here, our plan is we've scanned, analyzed an Isilon bucket or an Isilon share. Sorry about that. You see it's relatively small here, corporate marketing share. It's got 20 files in it. We've set up and activated a plan to move data that hasn't been accessed in over 1 year to Azure Blob. We've actually moved the data already. We've moved 20 files out. It's roughly 100 meg of data. Now let me show you what that looks like in the cloud provider. So this is the actual Azure portal. So anyone that's familiar with Azure, spend a lot of time in this portal system. So we can go in to look at the data that we've written and read it directly. So I'll go into my containers, drill down into the container. I'm looking for Komprise row hit. There we go. The environment that I'm writing natively to is .48 environment, but I want to show you first if you write in chunk mode. And this is also, I want to show this because this is very similar to what data would look like as it's written from other vendors, backup vendors, tiering, archive vendors, how they write data. They will chunk the data up, what our founder Kumar likes to call munge it up before they send it out there to the cloud. And this is what it looks like. Komprise can pull this together. The application can pull the data back together, but this data is unusable outside of the application. It's a bunch of 5 meg chunks. Again, the application can pull it back together, but you can't really use this outside of the application. Now, let me show you why I pointed this out. Because with Komprise writing in native format to Azure, here's what we have. So I'm going to go into the environment that I set up for native format writing, go back to my data directory here. And now instead of just a bunch of chunk files, I've taken all of these files and moved those out, left symbolic links on the file system so I can access the data there. But I can also go directly in Azure portal and read the data directly from the portal. So instead of seeing a bunch of 5 meg chunks that are really unusable within the cloud provider, I can take this data, I can, with the proper credentials, I can open the file directly, download it, take a look at it. You see here, I can read the data directly from the cloud provider. So this has come in really useful. It's, this is an archiving tiering use case, but you can also make full copies of data out to the cloud, run attach compute instances within Azure to the data set, run analytics against it. There's lots of use cases here. Once you get the data in native mode out to the cloud, then the possibilities are really endless.
Hey, Glenn, there was a question out there. It says, those, yes, when you tiered the cold data and you left that link behind, is there any special software on the end user's system to be able to read those links?
Good question. And the answer is no. We use industry standard symbolic links. So the end user, you need no additional software on the end user system to access the data directly, transparent.
Yeah, we call that transparent move technology for Komprise. That's one of our value propositions there. Good, cool. Was there anything else that you wanted to show?
That was it. That was the main core of it.
Good. The goal here was to try to keep it under 10 minutes, and that was an excellent demonstration, Glenn. Thanks, man.
Thank you. Anyway, thanks so much for joining, and hope to see you soon. Thank you.